Okay, so today I'm here with Carl Costa, the director of SongHi. And so hi, Carl, and it's great to have you on the show. How's it going?
Hi, all good, thank you. Nice to be here.
So basically, let's talk about SongHi and what you do at the company. So when did it launch, and what is the company all about?
Yeah, so the company launched in July of 2007. Has been operating for about 18 months or so in kind of stealth mode, and then the actual launch to the worldwide was in June 2009, where we launched with Shakira in line with the World Cup. The company is basically a pretty cool audio engine, music making tool with a whole bunch of social features. It allows teenage kids, sort of Guitar Hero generation, to come into SongHi, make music, share it with their friends, purchase a bunch of virtual goods and personalise their own sort of musical identity in a whole sort of game-like environment with the idea that they become a virtual star.
And so how did you start developing the concept for the company, and also how did you start out in terms of getting artists involved into the concept?
So the company was started by two co-founders who have a background in music and music creation. They wanted to bring a product to the marketplace that allowed teenage kids to be able to sort of create music and share it with their friends in a kind of social environment. That was the kind of launch, thinking about things like Habbo Hotel, thinking about Guitar Hero, thinking about Apple's GarageBand, bringing all of that stuff together and making it into sort of a social online music making portal, let's say. That was the original concept. We've kind of moved and changed that, and where we've got to at the moment is the same kind of thing really, but we're trying to bring sort of two routes to market. One is where we have artists and labels having their own artists within SongHi as sort of music making areas that people can come to, and secondly to have it as a product that is a kind of an audio engine or a music making tool with a bunch of social features that we actually give to artists to allow those artists to put within their existing kind of digital channels, so adding value to what they're already doing in there. So,
and what are the different paths for monetization of the platform?
Pretty simple, really. The whole virtual goods microtransactions piece that is kind of well known in the online world is the main thing we do at the moment. You can register for free within SongHi. You can create music and you can share it with your friends for free. But if you then want to go on and either personalise your own musical identity by buying samples of virtual instruments or virtual sounds, you can do that, or personalise your own identity buying personalisation items for your avatar and your studio lounge and things like that. So it's kind of music or it's personal in the two ways that we do that, and it's again all through with virtual goods. Mostly people are buying sort of one-off items, but there's some models we're looking at the moment where we're going to be trialing some subscription models and potentially some subscription with microtransactions combined. So those two routes to market.
And you've had some really high-profile artists like Justin Bieber and Rihanna. So how do those partnerships come about, and how did you train the users to use the platform?
Yeah, so Justin Bieber and Rihanna were kind of the two sort of most high-profile ones we had. That was just before Christmas, so end of 2010. And what we tried to do is give people sort of a tutorial, use the actual audio engine and the kind of intelligence behind the audio engine, so we eliminate kind of false notes and eliminate anything that might let the user create music that they don't like. So with a little bit of enthusiasm, they can get on board, they can start making music, and it's going to sound pretty cool within a short space of time. So that's kind of what we've been doing. We're also looking at bringing in some sort of video tutorials. There's a bunch of stuff we've got on YouTube that tells people how they can go and make a really, really simple track using Rihanna's samples and end up making something that's really quite cool. They can share it on Facebook and get their friends to comment about it. So
yeah. And one thing about remixing and samples and that kind of stuff is that sometimes artists and labels are concerned about the use that people are going to make of the finished product. So how is the reaction of the labels and the artists towards what SongHi's end product is?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's something we kind of talked at length with the artists and labels before we got started, really. So the solution that we've come up with that we think is the best for everybody concerned is that we're not actually taking the actual samples of the track by the artist. What we're doing is we're creating something that's similar to it, has a similarity to has been created by the artist. It's not exactly the same, and also it still has enough production value, let's say, for a user to use it. So there's value for the user. We're not contravening any sort of publishing rights or anything like the artist, and what is being created with those sounds is kind of under a kind of common license to be used by the user, because it's not an actual sample of anybody's. It's just our interpretation of that piece of music.
Yeah.
And
that's an interesting concept. So you developed quite a lot of intellectual property around also the way the SongHi operates. So was that all done in the sort of couple of years since forming the company until going into market?
Yeah, so the kind of audio engine, which is the core of the SongHi offering, we've got some patented IP that sits behind that, which again I mentioned, try to eliminate kind of false notes and make it really easy for people to create some really good quality music. We've done that so that it's something that works, it gives value to the user, doesn't contravene any sort of like publishing rights, and is also something that a user can then go on and share wherever they want to share it, really. So.
Yeah. And our core of the company is based out of Helsinki in Finland. So how did you find the environment over in Helsinki? Because there are quite a few startups based over there.
Yeah, so I think it might be something to do with it being very cold and very dark there quite a lot, but there's always seems to be some really good technology that comes out of Finland, having worked with a number of Finnish startups over the past few years. So, that those guys are very good at tech. There's a good atmosphere and there's a good sort of collective in the marketplace around, good tech startups coming up with some really interesting stuff. I guess my involvement, and has been with a few different Finnish startups over the years, is to bring that kind of strategic partnership, opening the marketing doors, opening the doors where they can take that technology and start creating revenue. And that's kind of the value I kind of bring to the table, really, in these kind of things, really. So.
Yeah. And in terms of actually creating revenue, as you said, there's been a few companies that came and went in the past few years that have attempted similar things to what you guys are doing, but haven't quite managed to get the mix right. So how are you managing to convince both labels and VCs that your idea is the one that's going to break?
Yeah, it's a good question. In terms of the labels and the artists, what we're trying to do is we're really trying to make something that's of value to them and something they can take to market, whether it's branded by the artists or the artists sit within it, as simply and easily as possible with a really concrete revenue stream. And most of that time that is around kind of revenue share or the virtual goods stuff that's happening. So that's kind of the one way that we've tried to sort of to make it a really palatable way to bring the thing to market, really. So.
Sure. And in terms of the platforms that you sit on, you have a strong integration with Facebook at the moment and social networks. And do you think there is a place for your app on a standalone platform? Or, are you going to continue partnering with different types of social networks to bring the app to as many people as possible?
We've got a few different routes we're going to go down at the moment. I think the core of what we've got as a social music making tool, let's say, or social music making product, has a real significant value if it sits within the Facebook or the social network kind of channels to market. It also has some value if it sits within an artist's existing digital channels. It also has a huge amount of value if we take the sort of mobile product that we've developed and put that through a number of different channels. So I guess at the moment we're whichever partnership is going to prove to us to be the biggest in terms of numbers of users, because that's really key in this kind of industry, and also can provide some good revenues, then we'll go with that. Yeah. We're only a small team, so we've got to work on what partnership is going to be the most viable for us in the short to medium term, really. So.
Yeah. And it seems like most social media, gaming experiences are trying to steer away from music, really, because they were concerned about publishing rights and all sorts of other, perceived nightmares of the music industry. So do you find it as hard as people make it out to be to work in the music field, or is it actually not as daunting as it sounds?
Yeah, the whole thing around kind of publishing rights is always going to be a bit of a minefield. I think it's minefield for people who work inside record labels, let alone ourselves who are trying to work with a record label. So that's always going to be an issue. We've hopefully sort of circumnavigated that with the way we've developed the technology and what we're doing with the samples and that kind of stuff. But it's really down to us at the moment how we kind of make the product work as simply as possible for people. We're trying to make a deal with the labels. It's always going to be hard. They have a certain amount of IP that they're trying to monetize, and I guess what we're trying to do is trying to add value into that from a social music, from a gaming perspective, and just give them some options in terms of what they can offer to the fans of those artists, really.
Yeah. And in terms of going forward, without talking about what you can talk about, what does SongHi have in store for the future, and what are your immediate plans for the platform?
Well, we've got a release coming kind of imminently, really, which is going to give a lot more functionality to the music-making product. It's kind of longer songs, more arrangement mode. We're calling it the arrangement mode at the moment. So there's longer songs, there's much more features and functionalities in there in terms of what people can create, and obviously getting other users to collaborate on what a user is creating. So there's that element. We've got some pretty significant partnerships that are going to come live very, very soon in terms of kind of distribution for the product through some sort of gaming music channels. And also we're working quite heavily on the development of the existing mobile product we have out there, which is kind of pretty basic at the moment. So, so those kind of channels to market are kind of key for us at the moment. So
it was an absolute pleasure talking to you and having you on the show. Thank you very much.
That's great. Thank you.